setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Oh, and there's still 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, I was faster today than usual. Redirecting to Facebook Live page.
I'm like so excited to share with y'all like the new work that I've been working on.
Wow, this is exciting too.
And you can be honest, you can tell me like, all right, you still got work to do, but I'm new to this whole speculative poetry field.
So,
It's
listen, and we've got more events. So this is our first time, but I'm not letting you go. So, yeah, I'm excited that you'll try new work on us. Now, it's not telling me no, so I'm going to believe that it's yes.
Yeah, it's already live on Facebook. I can see on the
You
top
can
right
see.
of my screen. Yeah, I can see that it's technically, yeah, we're on.
So so Facebook will hear us before Zoom will, because I'm not going to open up till 7 o'clock. But I thank you for sharing new work with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
Let's see, what do I need to tell people? Oh, here we go. I should tell them in caps, share questions in chat, because that's easier. Share questions in chat. And at 7, I'm going to do probably a semi-long introduction, including introducing you. I'm really into introducing people. I like them to feel welcomed and honored. So I'll blah blah for a while, but you'll know when I shut up.
Okay.
That it's time for you to go.
Okay.
Oh, for people who are seeing us on Facebook and waiting for me to say it's 7 o'clock, Faye wrote this fabulous book, which I hope I filled the whole screen with.
Yes, you did.
So wonderful. So wonderful.
Thank you.
So wonderful. I mean, oh no, but you, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't read it all because I can't read it all, because I'll read like a hunk and then I'll be in tears and I'll be torn up. And then I have to be in a certain place to return to it. And then when I returned to it, I was like, well, why did you have to, you did not have to do that. Here's joyful, funny, humorous stuff. Oh, and then I'll get back into the, oh my gosh. And, right? You are so, okay. Now it's 7 o'clock. So I'll mush you up more later.
Okay. Can't wait for it.
Okay, I'm admitting, let's see who else is there. Okay. And let me make the view be on speaker so that when I'm quiet, people will focus on you. Welcome to the 12th reading in the Speculative Sundays poetry reading series, where every other week you can hear the poetry of possibilities. Live on Facebook via Zoom. I'm Akua Leslie Hope, speaking to you from the ancestral land of the Onondaga, also known as the Seneca, keepers of the Western Door in the Southern Finger Lakes region of New York State. I pay homage to the Seneca, past, present, and future, and to my own ancestors by whose grace I exist and am sustained. I'm delighted to say that this series is supported in part by the Artist Development Grant Program administered by the Arts Council of the Southern Finger Lakes and funded by the Community Foundation of Elmira Corning and the Finger Lakes. Speculative poetry, the poetry of possibilities, includes alternate history, cryptids, monsters, cyberpunk, dystopia, fairy tales, fabulism, fantasy, folklore, futurism, horror, magic, mythology, occult, paranormal, robots, science fiction, shifters, slipstream, solar punk, space opera, superheroes, supernatural, sword and sorcery, sword and soul, steampunk, time travel, post-apocalyptic, and weird. It takes all poetic forms, plus sci-fi coup. I'm delighted to introduce tonight's poet, Faye Hernandez. Faye Hernandez, born 1993, Chihuahua, Mexico, is an Inglewood-raised immigrant, trans, non-binary visual artist, writer, and healer. Faye is an advisory board member of Gender Justice Los Angeles and was one of the artists for Forward Together's 2019 Trans Day of Resilience campaign. They are co-founder of ING Fellowship, which provides mentorship to Inglewood youth working on projects to counteract gentrification, and was also Femitor for the 2019-2020 Seeds of Liberation leadership development program for young transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex people in Los Angeles. Faye is a certified Reiki and Akashic Records practitioner who utilizes a decolonial approach to ancestral energetic healing. Faye collects Pokemon plushies. Faye's writing has been featured in NPR's Code Switch, Immigrant Report, Non-Binary Memoirs of Gender and Identity, Columbia University Press, Good Mood, Livewire, Issue 7, Hayden's Ferry Review, Poetry Foundation, The Breakbeat Poets, Frontier Poetry, Livewire, Latinx Poetry Project, and the Oxford Review of Books. Their beautiful full-length poetry collection, which has me all aswoon, Hood Creatora, was published by Sundress Poetry Collections 2020. Welcome, Faye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me and for such a warm welcome. I'm super excited to be here and share this new work. Speculativeness has always existed within me as a person of no lands, as a person displaced, as a person living in liminality and occupying so many different identities, and then kind of like even my light skinnedness and how that translates to the worlds that I live in, the worlds that I'm a part of, the privileges that I carry. And so it is through my poetry, my work, that I string together ancestry, my birthrights. I'm connected to the stars, to the peoples out there through my own magic and my own healing work. And I just put it all together to make sure that we can elevate our peoples and make sure that we are safe and protected as Black, Indigenous, people of color, who are trans, who are gender nonconforming, who are intersex, and that exists within spectrums of non-traditional identities. And so that's who my peoples are. That's who I'm fighting for. That's why I write what I write. And I'm just really excited to share new work with y'all. My full-length poetry collection, Hood Criatura, was published by Sundress. So it's available in major bookstores, on my website, and it's a big deal. I had been working on that book for like 7 years. I performed a lot throughout Los Angeles, at the Poetry Lounge, at you name it, 1,000,001 places. And so for my book to come together into fruition just means a lot. And so if you have the book, if you're interested in buying it, get it from my website or from Barnes & Noble. I'll make the more I'll make more money if you get it from my website. And it would also just mean a lot if we create buzz around it. If you write a review on Goodreads or Amazon or Barnes and Noble, it'll just put attention on a necessary book. And it's not on the basis of like social capital for me. I don't care about that stuff. It's more like I want to make sure that a lot more people have access to the stories, to the representation that comes with getting Hor Criatura. Because I wrote it because there was a scarcity of it. I wrote it because that book did not exist for me. And so now I'm leaving something behind for people like me or people that are part of my communities who have shared experiences to some degrees. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started reading some poems. I hope y'all ready. This is new work, so I'm like nervous because it's the first time I take myself seriously when it comes to really bringing to life all of the ancestors, bringing to life the stars in my work, giving myself permission to live freely as the light being I am in the work. And so I hope it's as healing to you as it was for me writing these pieces. So this collection is titled The Prophecy of Bawi. And Bawi translates to water in Raramuri, which is the native language of the peoples that I come from, or one of the peoples that I come from. The first poem is titled Limonada 2200. Ama still makes limonada, although it's not common to find limes in this world. Her daughter deemed her crazy. Her husband did too, but snow ended up covering all of La Brea, how she foretold in a dream. Cars swerved. Children ran out into the streets in shorts and played and gleed. In this world, it is still voodoo to be prophetic, so of course they laughed at Ama. But she didn't waver, for she knew that gentle bartering from neighboring planets would bring her limes, would bring snow to the land once known as drought, as lacking of something so inherently ours, so inherently us, water. She poured 5 cups of herself in a glass jarron, squeezed the alien limes that traveled past our 2 moons to be sliced down their torso, a sacrifice for the limonada ritual that our predecessors relied on to survive the sun. There are many renditions of this recipe, but in this story, no sugar is added. A big jar of honey is pulled from the dirt beneath Ama's yoni, unwrapped from cloth and glopped into the glass jarron in handfuls, fingertips, fists, sticky with the fossils of bees. Because the last bees survived the sun, so that we could laugh at the witch that is Ama, chuckle at the daughter's quick stank face, her quick wit to call her mother crazy. The bees survived to let us gawk our head at her husband and his quick disdain for what he should have already known is real, like snow in Los Angeles or limonada made from borrowed extraterrestrial limes from a neighboring planet and 5 cups of Ama. Thank you. That's the first piece. Yeah, I'm like dumb hype. That was kind of an interesting thing for me. It's a very heteronormative family, but I think I tried to create a world that was so abstract and so non-linear, non-binary that that it really queerified this really simple narrative of a mother, a father, and a child. So yeah, the next poem. I'm sorry, my son wants to play. Look at him. Come here. Stop. So the next poem I'm reading is titled Breathing Marciano. Mad, she said over and over, how are you keeping me without breath? When I want to chew on the sun, chewy like marshmallow, take me to the meadow where I can imagine the sky, a magic girl, anime angelic, purple tone, with shimmering thick yellow shooting stars and spaceships filled with a menagerie of all our silly, ass-shaking, tongue all out and shit, wise, 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 alien selves dug in. In this life, we are not composed of numbers, only limbs. In this life, keep me breathing, she said. Why do you have a fixation with holding the same metal walls that separated nations before between your lungs and your voice box? Sing. Your heart's a fist. Let it fist pump with extraterrestrials like you, hands on y'all's knees at a party in the middle of the room. Let everyone watch you dance. Let them recall you from a past life and say, okay, Inglewood, I see you. In this life, I dance through you, baby. So why the sudden folding and folding and folding until you're a note passed from classmate to classmate where you ask, do you like me? Yet you check your own box, no. Release the habits of the old world, child. I live in you, which is reason enough to like yourself because I'm popping. When on chances you've let me in, you've felt the fluttering of wild birds from strange places all in your insides, did you not? Your feet turn to rivers wherever you stand. When you let me in and your palms become the placeholder of the sun, when it has tired, do you not see your beauty? In this moment, launch yourself into any cosmos with nothing but the relic of the Nintendo 3DS and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, your favorites. Don't play and disconnect. We are nothing more than this moment of surrender. I, your greatest lover, am trying to show you a good time, remind you of who you are without the density of our shared bones or the shirt tug to hide our love handles. In this world, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl or both or none. Here, we are enticed with only one thing, life. The dread is not of this life. So give yourself to me. Open your mouth and take more of me. Gulp me. Let me fill you, baby. I want to be how you walk out of here, always full. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna take my baby's collar off because he's making a lot of noise. Look at him, look at him. He wants to play. So yeah, that was a piece that I was trying to explore the personification of water. Breathing Marciano, water inside, spirit as, you know, water as spirit, breath as spirit. And what you would say, trying to clock me on my sadness and my density from past lives and hurt and pain that doesn't belong to me. So anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm gonna go ahead and, sorry, Cosmo is acting up. The next poem is titled Creation Myth People. Can everyone just do me a favor and like take a deep breath in and reconnect? More so I'm doing it for me because my child pulled me out of myself. But this piece is also really important to me. Creation Myth People. Instead of being known as the nothing people or the I don't know people, we have become the papaya people, the brimming with black seeds people, the spilled Milky Way people, the big-haired people, people that make creation myths for solar returns. We are still known as the tire rubble sandal runners. But this time, instead of running away into the hills for shelter, we run across the blurred state lines as a one people. We are still the children of the sun and moon children. But here we know ourselves as a people who wane and crescent, who lift river tides with our hands. We are the guitar people, the forest people of cackle and snap, who snap the necks of peanut shells and chickens alike people, the giant lanky people, the short, blurry people. Here we are no longer the alien people who leave sigils behind. We are the word people, the desert people, the mountain people, the plains people, the plátanos macho people, the copper people, the green lightning people. We were once the no one's people. We are now the not one people. The land stretches bountiful. We are no longer the lift yourself up by the bootstrap people. We are no longer the bag people carrying their whole world across their shoulder. We are now the bone people, the suck the marrow out and keep living no matter what people. We are the prism people, not the prison people. Our skin, any and every color we want them to be. We are the hands people. We are always holding, always holding, always holding. We are the always holding people. Thank you. Ooh. I'm over here channeling some shit. um, yeah, that one is deep, deep, deep in my heart. Um, so I hope y'all doing good. You're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're breathing. I hope you have some water nearby. um, because, poetry. So this next piece was inspired by, stop. This poem was inspired by a conversation I had with my grandma about this ancient home that her peoples had in this like very um, far off place in Mexico where she lived in the mountains. My grandma comes from the mountains, from like cabins and snow and stuff like that. Um, so so yeah, it was a conversation, and yeah, it's called Matashik, Chihuahua, Mexico, 2200. We are still, river, Abuela Maria with the fur comforter, Matus, Luisa, Marcela, immortal, children around her, terciopelo, big earrings, red Golgotha, cigar, coffee, solitaire, or divination, Arroyo Hondo, Nogales, nut trees all exist still. Cuatro cuartos, milking blue cows, sold them to Francisco Leal, owns abuela's land still, 2,000 pesos. Jorge Torres can take us to my abuelita's parents' house. Still, people live amongst the ravines and ancient parts of the house. Arroyo Hondo, gold mine, ranch, wood canals bring the water from the mountain. Still, peach trees, cornfields, Martin, Ramon, Tarahumara, the place where dogs bark. Still. Thank you. This next one is titled Half of Me. As a Mexican person, I am a very complex racialized being because of the genocide and colonization that defines my skin and my peoples. So this piece is titled Half of Me. Philanthropist, anthropologist, historian, writer, all things I was told I couldn't be as a half-breed, a racially unclassifiable product in the new world. However, the researcher, the fearful half of me, grips onto maps anyways. I study unfinished ancestry trees drawn by my old hands. I harbor hate. I gawk at the part of me obsessed with studying the other halves of me and searching for answers in libraries that weren't designed or constructed by people like me, that keep records of people like me, libraries where what I'm looking for I won't find. And I don't know where to begin telling the story of how my people began. There's no creation myth. It's a historically marked genocide. Ask any neighboring planets, they all know about my kind. Maybe I can go back to the plumage, the foliage of my great-grandmother's rage. Maybe, for the sake of not research but survival, she'll let me into her home of clay by the river, surrounded by pine trees, regardless of my skin color. I wonder how long the tides were, how low the tides were when the explorer in me took to the ocean to find his other half on the other side of the globe. Were the cumulus clouds nervous with the anticipation of an ancient world being smarter than theirs? How many times did the explorer in me take hold of the wooden rails of the ship and try to jump? I'm still waiting for this half of me to jump, to say something, to explain the product of my skin. I'm waiting for the explorer in me to sledge through the shores of South America, and upon his landing, boot deep in sand, fist in the air, claiming land, so that I can imagine a barrage of fiery arrows shot from the mountains, gracing his body. With him dying, I die too, but the desert peoples, the river peoples, the canyon peoples don't. And that makes for a fruiting legacy, don't you think? The air will smell of burnt flesh in this story. As the intergalactic human in me, my other halves will sit and unshell the seeds to be planted in the hills later that day. Mexico will never happen. Tribes upon tribes of us that existed will continue to. The world that should have reigned on the planet Earth in a past life will unfurl itself, not out of war this time, not out of death, not out of the death of my people, but from our hands that know seeds. Thank you. Damn, these poems make me mad or something. But yeah, there's something beautiful that happens with this work. I realized that I'm able to tap into my full self instead of, for example, Hood Criatura is very terrestrial. It's all about identity politics, about how my body as it's seen, perceived in the forefront or on first glance is interpreted in the world. But this work, it's like, yo, like I am like fucking intergalactic and I came with a mission, like don't play. um so yeah, I feel this synergy that comes with this new work, this speculative work. So I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I feel like because I had this opportunity, this lineup kind of planned, I gave myself the permission to sit and do the work that I needed to do with this work. So thank you. This next one is titled Find Me. I write this poem in hope that you will read it and find me someday. We are no longer connected by tribe. The land has been severed. I am made in your image, but when I chew past my cuticles, my insides are made of metal and wires. My motherboard encourages me to find you. Hurry. She insists we are more than just this share of program. Yet, it doesn't feel right to seek you, be you, when you've gone on living as we should have, but I am only a prototype, a product of the cleansing in 2100. I am of the machine people, reprogrammed to fit any mold, any nation. Remember, less every 2 years so that my human blueprint be rewired to exist with easy commands of some higher corporation, and to them, the less emotion in me, the better. I don't know why. I know I am losing time. I don't know what made me remember a severing from you before Mars. Am I part human? My core is becoming more and more empty of past memories. A fire is extinguishing inside of me, and I do not know where this poetry comes from. I must have been a poet in a past life. We are not needed in this one. They bribe us machine people with options to dress our avatars, pretty blush, colorful wigs, different skins. I can change my lips, my eye color, because they want me to believe we are free. In this world, I can be anything except what we were always supposed to be, peoples of a people. If you find this code somewhere on the expansive web of screens and data on Earth, I have 3 keywords so that you can track my location, so that you know I belong to your coordinates and you can call me back. Find me at all costs, even if you have to jump through time, rewire the future. I want to be amongst you all on what you call a reservation, preservation. I know it's expensive, but time travel to save me. This Mars is war, and there is no freedom. Kuseba si ire, ayúdame, ob, pima. These are the only words I could send from a memory search and send them to Earth. Forgive my trespasses in human languages. I just need to be found. I hope this translation makes it from Mars. AI 604850798. Thank you. So that piece is inspired by the fact that the United States pretty much colonized Mexico once Mexico became the colonized country. So this double colonization happens, and in that severing, I'm from northern Mexico, which my descendants have a lot more to do with native folks from the Americas, from what we know as the United States, more so than they do with Aztecs and Mayans, which are further south in the Mexican geography. So I know that my grandma, one of my grandmother's grandma, was a Pima Indian, and then there's the Pima peoples from the United States who have a reservation, and I don't have access to that. Like I'm not. I have to also respect the fact that my indigeneity has nothing to do with living an indigenous life. I am an acclimated, culturalized Mexican person who like knows where they come from, but I also have to understand one, what's inside of me and respect that, but also respect kind of like the politics around identity and this third dimension, which is very stifling and stuff, but it's also out of respect. I didn't grow up in a reservation. I don't have those experiences. And so this poem was me, this kind of robot, this android, this artificial intelligence taken off to Mars, finding a way to be returned back to what was rightfully mine. And find a way to connect. And even this AI personality has these doubts like, should I be part of this? Or have I been just too severed, too rewired to even return? But if you do find it, here are a couple words that might key you in on who I am, who my spirit is. So yeah, thanks for holding that. How are we doing? How many, like, I didn't check on time and stuff. We're good? Okay. So this next poem is titled Solutions for an Irresistible Future 2200. Although I am made of naked light, my body is the flickering flame on a wick. I do not know what a candle is. I do not know what world this metaphor came from, but I like it. In the space in which I hover, stars tilt behind me, and there are no libraries here, just me. The knowledge of all things fit in my voluptuous silhouette, in my hips. I keep everything that needs to be remembered. In the long wisp that is my hair, I store pleasure that keeps life alive. For those searching for me through telescopes on Earth, seeking answers for why millionaires and the KKK went missing, who are curious about how the ocean swam back into itself to save Earth, I send you this code. It is the year 2200 in human years. Planet Earth released a chemical from petunias that made the bigots who enslaved them lose their gravity and slip into the stratosphere from their front doors, from their offices, from their surplus homes, never to be seen again, their skeletons floating upward, meteor dust out in some dark corner. This alone recalibrated the ecosystem almost entirely. But also, the vibrato from bees' wings led water back to the northern and southern hemispheres to reintegrate back into glaciers. Climate change who? What beauty brought Earth back to its primitive beginnings and allowed it to continue? I could go on and seduce you by telling you about the horses that made cactus bloom wherever they left hoof marks behind, or the ways in which children of many colors, without numbers on their backs, decided where trees should be planted and elders followed. But I am too wet, hugging myself as I spin as a flickering light out in the expanse that is my womb full of stars. I will leave the door open though, in case you want to join me with something kinky to offer. I am pulsating in the cocoon of myself. If you want to know the warmth of what I know and touch where it is stored, come. Come to me untethered and made of soft lightning so we can watch new solar systems form, write poetry of the history of time. Come so we can rid the sick white supremacy off planets together, where we pull colorism from memory so no one can reenact death. Maybe we can count bigots as they slip upwards from Earth and towards the expanse of the universe, purple from their suffocating. I don't know, think about it. I can tell you how I managed to control gravity, give it and take it. I can show you how a person's spirit can be weighed, how some could be collectively restored, but others had to be made away. I can share the alchemy that allows for any and all metal bars and prisons to disintegrate and any land claim documents to catch flame for all eternity. I can tell you how. I can tell you how I did it all. But first you must come. Be the lover I celebrate love with, so I can put your hand in between my legs where I alone keep every future full of easy and buoyant life. Thank you. Sexy poem for Valentine's Day. I'm hot. um, yeah, so I won't give an explanation about that one. That's pretty apparent. This next one managed to make it to Hood Criatura, so I did add a little bit of maybe a lot of magical realism and speculativeness in Hood Criatura, but it was mostly always founded within our context. So this one's titled, I couldn't see for a second, sorry. Lala, the Origin. Anyone who enters illegally what is now known as the United States knows to meet with Lala before the chip is implanted in the left arm where the blue veins converge. She no longer needs a red headband to cover her eyes. She sees through a single yellow eye on her forehead, even under all that wild green hair. Lala's cavern smells like seaweed, walls, wet scales, the floor, mud. There is a giant oak tree her home shades under, making it invisible to legals. Lala will hand you a mucus-covered cactus needle, so as soon as you enter, you will not speak. She will rub your stomach 3 times clockwise after lying down. The payment is your other half. Sometimes ancient coins, sometimes black and white photographs of you in another country, now on fire. Sometimes whole lovers are sacrificed, their blood for the sake of awakening your shape-shifting gene, but it all depends on your karmic debt. That's not on Lala. Her brown, bluing hands are wide and fast, a bird's beak claiming food mid-air. The mucus-covered cactus needle must be quickly swallowed while the tense gut is rearranged and molded to vaccinate enslavement. There are long lines of people that curve around hood apartments of those who just crossed outside of Lala's cavern. Seasons will pass, but all aliens know better than to lose their place in line. Lala is the only way to survive this country of closed doors, trackers, and syringes. She is a coyote, a witch, a mother from the sea. Lala will place her hands on your pelvis after animalistically devouring a bundle of your hair. In tongues, she will say, black wings will grow from your hips after the cactus needle mixes with bile. Let your blue organs free you. Her single yellow eye will follow your every move. She will spit into the smoke and slice a guayaba in half, and without thought, you would drop to your knees. Sink deep into the mud and remember your native country before the fire, before your DNA helix was torn. When you wake up 3 days later, you will be cocooned in mud. She will hand you 2 tequila shots and will ask you to take your clothes off. She will dig her hands in a wood bowl the size of a torso, pull out from its depths 2 handfuls of honey and rub them across your bare chest. She will say, the beings from space before us did this ritual to become the ignorant we are now. Give your body back. We need to be mighty blue, tongueless gods again. In 3 days, your skin will begin to blue. In time, your eyes will yellow. Your movements will become more precise and fast. You will age slower, and you will not be able to avoid swimming the depths of the nearest green body of water on days of freedom. Thank you. This next one is in the same universe as the one I just read. It's titled Consuelo, the One-Legged New Country. Even if they are slumped in the year 2532, sighs dragging out of their thick lips, they will march to the oak tree known as Consuelo, the one-legged country on Kelso Street, near the Inglewood Unified School District that burned down a millennia ago. Only they, the gray-eyed, colorful-skinned, transient people, can walk into this tree and have their muscles resewn after being overworked under a blistering sun. Their green hair darkened to the color of their native country as soon as they enter Consuelo, the one-legged new country, a sanctuary turned nightclub. It was created from sawdust and sexy incense by the star-born curanderos and shamans that were murdered in the last century. Those that enter the tree are transformed. The finest of clothing embrace their body. Afros and long hair, crop tops and fake lashes manifest perfectly with a single thought, bamboo earrings, no effort needed in becoming transcendental celestials. Walking through the oak tree is the easiest part of the transition. You simply do. But before you do, you raise both of your palms to the gatekeeper of our preservation. A blue abuela sitting near the oak tree, kinky hair, wide nose, her native tongue all crooked, checking authenticity, a spirit with an attitude. It is getting down the slippery wood steps into the club that's hard. It's hot, but we hold one another so we don't slip, tumble atop each other. But if someone does tumble, everyone rolls down hand in hand, wet with each other's seawater, the dance floor popping, all underwater and shit, all the same. The old and weary transcendental folks become the youthful dancers of their dreams, spinning in red heels, the dance floor full of colorful bodies. Somewhere around midnight, some melancholics fall in love with whoever passes by with the native country burning in their eyes. Near the bar, drinks are poured over. You never have to pay here. And the callus of your hands are softened with the moisture in the club room. Drinks slip from grips often, but everyone laughs. And one or two aliens will accidentally kick glass into the dance floor, but no one will bleed because in this life, we are eternal and safe here. It's not about getting tipsy. It's about making a country with each other, between each other, home, and living eternally safe. Safe. Thank you. Those were a lot more verbose. So I feel like I get tired. I'm like, I need to do some editing there. No, I'm kidding. How are we doing? Oh, keep going. Okay, cool. Oh, we got to wrap up. Okay. I can't. You're muted. I can't hear you.
We want to leave time for people to ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. No, by all means, let's do it.
Oh no, I didn't want you to.
What happened?
Hey, you were so engaging. I did not want to just make you stop. So I was just
Oh,
saying,
okay.
maybe, I was trying to signal like maybe one or two more, and then we would
Okay,
have
okay.
time for people to ask questions.
Okay, there's only two poems left, so I'll just
So
read them.
yes, so excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. These last two are like my favorite because they close off this whole like collection. But anyways, it's called Bawi, the future post Nike. And Nike means fire in Raramuri. So it's water, the future post fire. Oh my God, I'm excited. They used to talk about the third eye as if it were a fossil, something dug from deep within the membrane. Now it's the only way we see. The sun made every human skin blue. Its filtration system helps us reach the bottom of the ocean floor without drowning. Ever since Nike, paper is extinct, and we all carry a pen capable of writing on air itself with a gentle loose. It translates any dialect into energy, so there's always a way to communicate. There's no use for tongues anymore. We've lost the muscle. So communicating is all in the wind and the pulsations of energy and the pulsations of our blue skin against each other. From atop, the bald elders look down at our planeta, the land sunken beneath the ocean. The once dirty terrain has softened, borders disintegrated into ash. We became wealthy in silence. The history of my people can be pulled from slits on our forearms, but we are told to leave it to the elders to tell. I tried it once though. I pulled my parents' lineage from my severed wrist. They were once brown skinned and their parents moved mountains and won wars. My people had a strength unlike any other. They were the fastest runners on the land. But before I could see more, I had spilled too much blood and learned the hard way we don't rehearse history anymore as much as we do create new life and preserve it. Now, we all live underwater, but we are always home in one another's. We don't believe in doors anymore. We eat with our blue fingers and sit in circles. That remains the same, I've been told. Our bald elders come and sit with us one time a year. They leave their warm stars and tell us stories about ancient technology, the legacy of our people. But before they leave, our ancestors lead us in prayer. We all dig our feet into the loose sand under the sky of ocean we live under and hum our song. You may be wondering who I am and how you can hear my voice in your mind. I've already said too much, but do not fret. This transmission is purposeful. I just want you to know that we will always survive. Thank you. And then the last one, pomegranate. I never needed an eagle feather in my hair or a start and end of my land. All I needed were the tides of the stars at night, the slashed chatter of my people, their ashened map like mine, Pangea, a shared what happens next. That's all we've needed to trail forward. Our soft melanin billowing across generations just to make it to the other side where we are the white curtain and its shadow in our homes of thick clay surrounded by a new species of pine tree that grows and grows and grows and grows. I never needed gills in my hands to turn water into oxygen. Never needed the gray eyes of my lost ones who could see beyond. I never needed pomegranate to reveal the color we bleed. I was always already all of this without it. I was already enough without knowing. Or was it in the not knowing that I was able to realize that I never needed anything but this here, this moment, this shared breath of speculativeness? That's it. Thank you so much.
Oh, 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 oh. You're wonderful. I,
Thank you.
I, my, I can't talk because I'm so full. Faye, you filled me with visions, with affirmations, with longings, with, oh, people, please ask some questions. We have time.
Have,
Yes, thank you.
oh, such wonderful work. Really fine work. Do you have a home for it yet?
No, I don't. It's brand new.
Okay, okay. Really, I really love your work. What was the name of the next to the last piece?
The next to the last, it's called Bawi, the future post Nike.
Okay. Yeah,
I can type it out.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Lovely.
Thank you.
And I love how you play with language. I like what you did with transcendental.
Yes, yes.
Lots of
yes,
fun.
yes.
Yeah,
There was
but
another.
really,
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
no,
Jackie.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say there was another Bao Wei poem, The Prophecy, with
Yeah,
earlier.
so that's the title of this whole collection. If we dig deeply into each poem, there's a reference to water in every single one. So that's what's connecting all of these different universes together. The prophecy of water, which I learned somewhere it's an extraterrestrial. Water isn't native to Earth. It landed from space. So Earth was just like rock and fire and heat, and then water landed. So we are 60-70% water, so we're extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
So that's where that was inspired from.
Nice, very nice.
Um,
How does this work compare to the work that's in the book that came out from Sundress?
Oh my God, it's so different. This like, even as I was reading it, I felt liberated. I felt untethered from my whole life. I've been that girl who's out in protests, blocking freeways, trying to fight for justice and inequity, and I've just always just had this very strong 3D connection to this terrestrial life and fighting for our liberation, that when I wrote this work, I felt the grandiosity that I am outside of just Earth. And so I felt free. And I don't think I've ever felt that way with anything I've written before. Because, for example, the work in Hood Criatura liberated my terrestrial story. It liberated the chains that like I was born into, but this that I read today is kind of like what it feels like to fly, like what it feels like to be like fully existent. And this isn't to say that I'm living separate to my third dimensional reality, but now I have this pocket of space in my work that exists for me to fly, to take off, to, you know, bring others with me on this journey so we can see our grandiosity too.
I felt lifted, absolutely. I felt buoyed. There, there were so many, when you talked about how it was always enough that you didn't need gills in your hands, and I started to cry because I was just like, I've been writing about gills, and and I was like, oh man, she's on that, they are on that track of thinking about the water. Okay, later this year, I'll talk to you about it. I'm doing a collection on water, so I hope you'll consider sharing some work for that.
Oh, of course. I'd love to.
Other questions beyond my gushings? Okay, because if there aren't, I'll let them recall you from a past life. Your palms become the placeholders of the sun. We are more than this moment of surrender, gulp. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love when you bring the sensual, the sensuous, the erotic in the speculative. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about pleasure as it pertains to our liberation. And I think there's just so much inherent shame that's part of the conditioning of how we are kind of controlled and detained from being our full selves. There's Mary, Mary, I don't want to butcher the name, Emergent Strategy, Marie Brown. They came out with the book titled Pleasure Activism. Adrienne Marie Brown, thank you, Janet. Where they bring a lot of like speculativeness into organizing work or like social justice work. And one of their books, Pleasure Activism, has been sitting on my phone for a while because I want to get to it, but there's just so much shame to tap into sexuality, sensuality. And there was just something that I don't write sexy poems. Like I don't, like period. Like I don't go there. And
we
when I
just
was
heard a bunch.
Exactly. So that there's something that like was definitely liberated even within myself through the speculative, where I was this like full sexy like body in space that's the store of knowledge. And I'm just like, if you're gonna come join me, then you better be untethered too. Like don't come in with some bullshit, you know, like come in free and ready to like.
But you know, I maybe I was reading where it wasn't there. I felt like I read some of that in Hood Creatora.
You think? Yeah, you think so?
Yes,
Maybe.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, it probably slips here and there, but I can be honest and say that that poem that I read was like a naturally organic, sexy poem, whereas the other ones were like, you know, they probably came from like just conversations or just something more tethered. It felt more tethered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your other halves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a bit about your other halves? Half of me, my other halves. I had a friend, a poet, who used to talk about being half and half and half and half, and of course the halves added up to more than one. So I resonated to hear you talking about half of you and your other halves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That poem was really hard for me to write because what I've been doing, so I do a lot of which I hate to say, but this is part of why I wrote this poem, but like anthropological research within my own family. Like, and what that means is just asking fucking questions to our elders, which we tend to not do. And so I've been documenting kind of our trajectory, where my peoples come from, because we're very native to northern Mexico, which again, Northern America and that northern part of northern Mexico, we're all connected. So there's like Pima Indians in US reservations, and then there's Pima Bajo people in Mexico, which is where I'm from. And that severance of border and nation states are so detrimental. Like there's just a disconnect. And so I also have to acknowledge like the colonizer in me, my skin is fucking white. Like I can't ignore that fact. So then I started doing a lot of speculativeness around like, why the fuck did they come in the first place? Like, how did my like white side or my transatlantic half, or, and I call it half, but it's more diluted than that. But how did they get here? Were they like gypsies? Because I know I have like mad like gypsy energy from my ancestry, from my blood in itself.
Have you ever done ancestry DNA?
Yeah, I did. And I think it was through that I was able to piece a lot of this anthropological research together, and it all lined up with what I had done. So it was super fucking interesting for me. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And so utilizing all of these things around ancestry, stories, and then ancestry.com, I was able to just kind of start imagining what the fuck like got them in the ship in the first place. Like, how did they get here? And I know my people's, my like the quote unquote counterpart, the white part, like, or the transatlantic part, was in the mountains. Like my grandma's from the mountains. She's the one that was mestiza. Like her, there was more whiteness, and then there's like indigeneity being entered into the lineage through her. But they come from the mountains. They were like really disconnected. So it almost, and it's not to justify, I don't know what happened, but there was like no connection with like major cities or major anything. They were just kind of secluded up there. Like, why did y'all seclude yourselves? What was the intention? Were you fleeing from something? Was like, what is your story? But even in trying to discover their story, there's anger in my own rejection of whiteness. And so that's why I was like all sarcastic, like anthropologist, writer, historian, things I was told I couldn't be. Yet here I am, this explorer in me is trying to find answers, solidify things, when my people's, if we think about it, we're probably like, let shit go. Like, let it go and just allow yourself to transcend and evolve and be what you need to be.
Connect,
which is
connect with the ancestors, which is, were we living in another kind of society, we'd be connected with the ancestors. We'd be told the stories. We'd inherit the oral history. I mean, this is what I rejoice in and applaud in your work. Did you question your folks to get some of this information?
Yeah. So I've always been very curious, very inquisitive. And it's mostly because I was trying to find myself selfishly. Like I knew that I was not a boy, and I knew that I was not a girl, and I knew that there was just a world inside of me. And in order for me to get to something major, to something that liberated me, I had to understand like where the origin of this body comes from. This is my bodysuit. Like this is, there's a reason why this is the angle in which I came into this planet.
We're all just in bodysuits.
Yeah, and I wanted to desperately understand why was this my body? Why was this the body that was? Why was I pressed into this body to do this work? You know, because there's also a lot of internalized like, oh, don't step in, like you're light skinned, you're white passing, or whatever you want to call it. And so it's like there was always this like terrestrial, like give other people space, step back, don't do it, which is super valid. But then there was this other part of me that's like, bitch, but you need to do the work. And this is part of deconstructing colorism and racism and all these structures that are super low vibrational compared to where we need to be. So it's like, all right, cool. This is why this is my body then. Like, yeah.
Through your struggles and your discoveries, you open the way for others.
Mhm.
You open our hearts and you open our minds. And your words are so transforming. They just absolutely are. It's just gorgeous, both your rigor and the depth. Um, deeply moving work. Um, how the
Thank you.
ocean swam back into itself to save Earth. Whoa! Oh, I mean, half the plumage, the foliage of my grandmother's rage took me to my own grandmother, and the kinds of ways they're all gone, the kinds of ways
Mhm.
I'm left to now interrogate their memories, or squeeze the archives, squeeze blood from the stone of the archives to figure out um, about their journeys,
Mhm.
just okay, anyone else, because like I said, we've got 2 more minutes, and I'd love to invite someone else to ask our wonderful poet a question. And okay, and since my language is so poor, please say the name of your book again, because then I was like, oh, the way he said it sounded so much better than me. I'm going to hold it up. So please say it again.
It's Hood Criatura. Cria,
That's the hard part, because I was
Criatura.
creator.
Oh, actually, if you open the book, there's on the second title page, it's spelled out phonetically how you should say it.
I know, but that's what I was trying to do. Okay, here, folks.
Yeah,
Here's what it says.
it's
I
Cria,
Pull it back. Pull it back some. Okay.
Can you
Yeah.
see?
Hood
Yeah.
Criatura.
That's what. All right.
Yeah.
I'll just say old lady tongue. That's all there is to it. I thought that's what I was trying to do, but it's so beautiful when you say it. It's so
Yeah.
I feel it's the song that it is. The song, um, any number of things, but tell me about the role of music for you. Is music important? Because
Mhm.
you are very lyrical and it sings. So and I don't mean that to at all diminish it. It really sings.
Mhm.
I'm swept up in the song of your poetry, of your verse.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, my grandma sings. She
Oh,
was a singer. She's losing her voice now.
do you
I
sing?
grew up around. I love singing. I don't know if I'm good. I just I love singing, and it's part of like my release. But I'm working on building that confidence and just getting
I'm not going to
bridging.
ask you this time, but just know next time. For next time, I'm going to.
Okay, for sure. um, but yeah, lyric and sound are super important. I'll rewrite whole stanzas if I need to, so that it flows. Because for me, there's like a flow that's happening. There's a movement in what is coming out and how it's coming out, and so the words have to fit, which also feels like spirits, ancestors are
Hiding.
co-writing with me.
Yes.
Like
Yes. I
it's
feel
not
that.
me. Like
Janet Ramirez says, do you know this person? Sing us a
yeah, that's my
song,
best friend.
Faye. You have a beautiful voice, she said. But it's now 8 o'clock, so
It is.
so you get to dodge that request.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much, Faye. I'm delighted to have spent this time with you. I'm honored that we got to hear all this new work, which is
Mhm.
incredibly expert, incisive, moving. I was crying, I was shaking, I was laughing,
Oh,
filling me with joy. Um, I'm delighted to have this time with you and to have recorded it so that
Yeah.
Others can enjoy it too. So thank you so very, very much for being here. Stay well. Thank you
course.
everyone for joining us on Speculative Sundays. Be well, stay safe, know joy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.